Hello, everybody. Conscious Medium, Brandon Ross. How are you guys? Sorry, I've been a little away from the microphone. All work and no play makes Brandon a very dull boy. I'm so sorry. A lot of responsibilities, a lot of things kicking off for me. So I apologize with this. So I'm a little bit late in getting to some of these videos, but I'm backlogged. I've got some really cool ideas. I got to get them down, and I'm going to jump into this. About 6 months ago, I actually did a video about how Donald Trump was going to do exactly what he's doing right now. I took a look at astrologically how he laid himself out and how he was going to do what I called execute Order 66. Now, if you're familiar with Star Wars, you immediately know what I'm talking about. It was the code in which was planted within every stormtrooper clone that at some point would adhere to the Emperor at the utmost value. In other words, whatever you say, I will do. And during that execute of Order 66 is when they took out many of the Jedis, where the Jedis became hunted. Great in the arc, great in the storytelling, awful in real life, right? Where the people that you think are here to protect you could turn around and actually work against you. We'll enter Donald J. Trump and Fuego. At the beginning of that video, I actually talked about how, for him, the big indicator was that Mars was in Gemini. It had just entered into Gemini. And as I deemed him from that video on, Captain Chaos was something pretty remarkable. He did not care that he didn't put his phone on mute. Sorry about that. A popular guy. But he did not care for others. He did not care for the idea that he was going to be wrong. Therefore, the more chaos he could corrupt into and draw people into, the more that he would feel emboldened and empowered. He knew some indictments were coming. And by the way, since that time, again, 6 months, we're still sitting around waiting for an indictment. When are those indictments coming? When is it that he's going to actually be held accountable for a damn thing? One of the challenges about this is, yes, the process is working, and yes, it's moving along, but damn it, you have to complete it. You can't just talk about it. In the last 10 days, and we're recording this right at the end of March 29th, 2023, I'm taking a look at the last 7 or 8 days. And I want to take a look at what happened with, his events, his threat events, and so forth and so on. Essentially, in modern terms, what Order 66 is a giant dog whistle to bring people forward that only hear the words in a certain way. That's why it's so important when, say, Stephen Miller showed a white supremacy sign. Only certain people saw it. Most people thought he was innocently bunny his coat. No, he wasn't. The dog whistle that Donald Trump is talking about is a call to violence. It's a call to the insurrection. It worked once and he wasn't held accountable. How do you think this is going to escalate? By the way, Donald Trump is actually in great company. I say that sarcastically and tongue-in-cheek. Other people had done a very similar thing. You might have known their names. Say Mussolini, Hitler, even Putin. If those three people have something in common, it's not just their ability to massacre and hurt other people. It was to rally people in a way out of fear or flight that something was going to be lost if they weren't called to action to defend the likes of him. I want to take a look at the chart for this past week in congruence to Donald Trump. And yes, thank you everybody for checking my math. On the inner wheel is Donald Trump. This is his essence. This is who he is. He is a Gemini, so he loves the mask. He loves the idea of not fully recognizing that he should pick a side and actually honor it. He plays both sides. That is the negative of Gemini, and guess what? He embodies it. He's also a Sagittarius moon, in a full moon even. He was born on a full moon, everybody. Put that together. And his rising sign is Leo. at the 29-degree Anarich. Guys, this is trouble. This is trouble in leadership. Because the sun sitting in the 10th house is all about his own ego. It's all about him. And the Leo rising, dare I say I know a little bit about that. You have to balance yourself to make sure that your ego doesn't become your defining source. Well, guess what? The other part of this, as we look at the chart, the outside is what's happening on the day. On the day that he went to go speak, of all places, at Waco, Texas. I know I have a lot of international people here, and I know I have a lot of people that might not have been born in 1993 or young at the bare minimum, or maybe you just simply forgot. But that is when the Branch Davidians were executed a FBI warrant, a legal warrant, because he had been stockpiling guns illegally. They had concerns for child welfare. By the way, are you sensing a theme here? Somewhere in this, where are the children? Where are the children? Well, in Waco, the children were tucked away. They have long evidence of abuse, neglect, brainwashing. Wasn't good. And the FBI, in an attempt to fume them out so it didn't go on any longer, David Koresh, the insane man that he was, decided to light his entire compound on fire, killing 86 people. There were also FBI agents that had perished along the way as well. Honestly, all of it was senseless. In case you're wondering, the Branch Davidians were actually a break-off from the Church of Latter-day Saints. They were frustrated that they weren't conservative enough, or that they were being questioned for some of their techniques, like, say, child grooming. Kind of not cool. In defense of the Latter-day Saints, that is not really what they're about. They might be myopic in terms of what they allow in, but they're not hurting anybody on the surface except for their tactics and what have you. The Branch Davidians wholesale broke off from them because even they were not radical enough for them. David Koresh found that as an opportunity. He was a musician turned preacher and decided to brainwash everyone, and then put himself to the akin that if they were against him, they were against his God, his worship, his beliefs. He manipulated and killed innocent people. Donald Trump chose to make a speech in Waco, Texas, as a dog whistle in Order 66 to call to arms that they're coming for you. It is an unwritten rule that Waco, Texas, and in specific the Branch Davidian compound, is kind of a mecca for extremist groups. The Proud Boys actually talk about Waco like it's a battle cry, like never forget it. And listen, I'm not saying that there's not an FBI agent or two that might have overstepped their boundaries, but you were hurting children and you were stockpiling guns. There's no reason for a church that believes in the Lord and the power of creation needs a weapon to solidify that. And if you need a weapon, take it out of the book of Mark and go ahead and pull out a kyanite sword like Michael did. If you're worth your salt, you'll know how to wield it. I know I do. But to understand that a man who is being indicted multiple times and probably for a half a dozen things more that are actually seriously legit, he's doing a dog whistle call to arms in Order 66 for his people. Look at this chart. Look at it. What I'm about to explain to you is a person that is about to become completely undone. And again, I call my shot on this. If you go back and you watch that Order 66, I nail it. I talk about it specifically and how he's going to do it. Waco, Texas was the perfect place. When we look at this, his sun is in square. The sun is sitting here in Aries, and it is a near square to his natal sun. Now, what does that mean? Well, the 8th to the 10th house, because again, we're just getting inside of it. We're just coming out of the true square here. This is where you have to really kind of do a gut check. These are the tough days, by the way, guys. Have you ever had a tough day and then the next day's better? Sometimes it's stuff like the moon gets conjunct or it gets square or it acts on certain things and it's like all of a sudden you're a Daniel Powter song and you had a bad day. Happens, right? Moves on. This square is kind of a big deal. You've also got the influence of, and I mean this wholeheartedly, and again, I'm focused in here on the, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do one of these. Why am I not able to move this? My gosh. So, that's why. So I want to actually make this a little bit broader and wider. So I'm just going to focus here on the top half here. Because the bottom half, I mean, he has no personal scruples except for how he approaches things. Pluto's sitting here in Aquarius, and he thinks he can manipulate the greater good. This is in opposition right now, right, to his 11th house, the opposite of Aquarius, and he's in a power struggle for self, and he's going to be creative about it. Well, how do you do that? You hold a rally at a place where a lot of people died on things like rights and amendments and other horse shit that you just make up as to how far it should reach. Donald Trump has a couple of components here. One of which is the fact that Saturn is now into Pisces, and he's going to manipulate this in his relationship house, by the way, everybody. He's going to absolutely show up is down and down is up. That is Saturn in Pisces. That is also why every single dictator has utilized Saturn and Pisces. By the way, keynote time, if you haven't watched that video, it's sitting there. Adolf Hitler went on a 3-year binge when Saturn was in Pisces and talked about how I need to make the trains run on time. Everyone else is taking things from us. Look at all these Jewish people taking up our space. That was his initial argument. His initial argument wasn't they're bad and they should be exterminated. Oh no. It was you're taking up our green space and I don't want to look at you. Bigotry. Bigotry is what started Hitler. By the way, hatred of the other side, of the spook, of the other person never really knowing their thing. It is 100% why Sully said, well, gosh, Kozlowski, we get more from making people laugh than we get from fear. When we're scaring them, it's just kind of easier. But it's hard to be nice to people and make them laugh. Monsters, Inc., once again, showing us how to live. Saturn, or Mercury and the Sun are here in conjunct, and I'm just focused in on the 8th house. You can find the 8th house. The Sun conjunct to Mercury. He's all about the action. He's going to take action. And by the way, in the 8th house is about, well, other people's money. By the way, he raised more money when he made the announcement that he was going to be indicted on Tuesday, which he didn't know. He just did some sort of bullshit thing. It was a fundraiser, everybody. His entire life is a fundraiser. That's what grifters do. Great song by Ghost. It's all about the griftwood. He's also feeling very empowered. It's sitting here in the 8th house. Is Jupiter in Aries. A lot of energy right here in the 8th and 9th house for him. The 9th house is about education and quite frankly, delusionalness. Because here you have Uranus. And Uranus does a really good job at creating rebellion. He's trying to rewrite history, everybody. He's trying to say, oh no, I didn't do it that way. There's a difference between defending yourself and changing the dialogue. Right? Poor Venus here, and by the way, this is a sense of emboldenment. Venus in Taurus in his 9th house, he thinks he's self-righteous. He loves the way he looks. Now, here's where the squirreliness comes in. Notice how the 10th house I mean, has the moon in transition. It'll be over in a day, day and a half, 2 days. Mars moves into Cancer just the day before, really. In the 11th house, which means he's trying to fight for the people. That's why so many people are appealing to him. So many people scratch their head and be like, why do so many people like Trump? Well, it's because he takes advantage of these placements. On a personal level, it's where things are. But at a personal level, it's like he has a lot of this conflict. He has the opportunity to balance out his Leo rising. But what's happening is he has a chance to balance it with Saturn. But the challenge is that it's Saturn in Pisces. So it's kind of like, I'm going to manipulate. This is about manipulating structure. This is also, I mean, on a personal journey, you can go, I need to look at this differently. Where are my beliefs? What's my structure? What's my routine? Great time for spiritual growth. It's also a great time for dictators that want to come into power. Pay attention. Mars here in the 11th house means that he has the ability to kind of rally the troops. He's also square to Mercury here, which means he's got a way about, he's going to be visceral. He's going to be angry. Also a great way to make money right now. Because the 8th house is also other people's money. Yes, it's sex and death and taxes and all that other stuff, but it's also about other resources, other people's pain, other people's energy. He's sitting there sucking the public dry. And more people are not becoming subscribed to it. But the people that are now all in because they find their identity with it. You have been trapped, hook, line, and sinker, cut it out. It's kind of funny that he went to Waco. Donald J. Trump went to Waco to extend the idea to create fear that the ATF is a bad thing and that they were there to hurt the Branch Davidians and they were there to take away their rights and to do whatever it is that they needed to do to the ATF just stonewalled them and just went through them and whatever. The people that believe in that don't recognize and justify abuse all the time. The ATF was there because it was unsafe for them to have that stockpile. It was unsafe for them to keep children that they weren't actually caring for. They were abusing them. Donald Trump went there as a battle cry for the Second Amendment. What he really did was reveal himself. And he has revealed himself time and time again. He's like, well. And we shrug our shoulders and say, what are you going to do? The idea, though, that what he actually showed was that he's a cult leader, everybody. He was honoring David Koresh. He was honoring the idea of like, hey, we're all going down together. You want to call a dog whistle? He's waiting for them at the door. He's ready to go down like a fight. He's ready to go full Tony Montana. Say hello to my little friend. Maybe he's just talking about his tiny hands. Ha ha, I'll be here all weekend. But the idea of this is tragic. Now, I want to fast forward. Many of you are sitting here going, when will it end? How will it end? Blah, blah, blah. I get it. I understand it. Let's bring it into picture here. One thing about astrology is that it changes every day. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them all, and there you have astrology. Should make that into a shirt. On the outer wheel is the astrology of the sky. On the inner wheel is Donald J. I want to point out one really important thing. And this is all you really need to freaking know. All right, I'm going to point out two things because I'm an astrologer and that's how we roll. Good old Uranus is going to have a serious influence here. As Uranus and Taurus goes square and is in square for about 2 weeks. So this is a time frame. from about, I'd say August 15th to about September 4th. And this is kind of split in the middle here at August 22nd. The sun is sitting at 29 degrees. Well, look at his rising. His rising's at 29 degrees. At some point during this day, the sun is going to move over his ascending. He can't help it. Because in his natal chart, he will have gone over his Leo Mars. The dude is about to go in the 12th house. He's about to become completely unhinged. He's about to get his home raided. He's about to be brought to justice that only a soul could ever answer. Because Uranus drops trow here in the most exquisite way. Saturn in Pisces is something he's manipulated. But it also can mean that friendships aren't real. It could also mean that things need to become very concrete for him. And who's with him and who's against him, because that's how he looks at it. Most adults, raise your hand if you are one, will say, everything has a season. Sometimes you're best friends one day, some days you're next, whatever. He's going to be blaming a lot of people, just like he blamed Pence on that day. It's like he's blaming and going after Bragg. I mean, come on. How much more of an execute Order 66 do you need than when he took a picture of him with a baseball bat standing behind him? Come on. He's so transparent. And when you call him out on it, he's like, well, whatever. That's your problem, not mine. Yeah, and what are you going to do about it? The problem is nothing's been done. This man is a 70-year-old man-child. He's never been held accountable a day in his life. Why do you think he's going to stop now? And now the astrology? The astrology speaks to somebody that will be so unhinged and so ridiculously arrogant about it. He doesn't care. Never cared about what you thought. He doesn't even care about his own kids. And I'm not even going to talk about how he set them up in court already. I'm not even going to talk to you about how Ivana now has a case open about her death. All of this is coming to roost, and he doesn't care because he's never been... He thinks it's a game so long as you're paying attention to him. He doesn't care. Doesn't care about you. He cares enough to get you riled up and get your money. By the way, when you create enough fear in Monsters, Inc., they suck your energy. When they create enough fear, when Donald Trump creates enough fear, he fills his coffers. How is any of this different? It is the exact same story over and over again. This man is cycling hard. By the way, Mars goes into the second house for him in Virgo. And by the way, after 7 months of the ping pong of retrogrades and everything else with Mars in Gemini, by the time we get to the next air sign, and by the way, 7 months in one typically takes 2 to 3 months, give or take, right? Now we're moving. We're moving. These retrogrades are going to be whatever. Mars is going to stick around a little bit in Virgo. Mars in Virgo is, oh, you're not going to do the right thing? Bam! Yeah. I think this is what's right for me. Bam! And guess what? This makes him so incredibly arrogant. So incredibly arrogant. Don't forget this whole time, this entire transition, Neptune is in opposition with Neptune. He has no sense of reality. Right? Neptune sitting in his 8th house, sitting in the 8th house, his 8th house, is all about him just sucking the money dry. By the way, he was born into a privileged lifestyle. Neptune in the 2nd house, he has no illusion. He's so delusional about who he is and what he's about. You can call it entitlement, but the parts that I've gotten emotional about when it came to Donald Trump was that he had opportunity to change this. He didn't take it. Instead, he doubled down on bad ideas, bad premise, and didn't go through the ego death that the universe gave him. Let me tell you something about an ego death. Ego death comes in a lot of forms. A lot. It comes in the form of somebody saying goodbye without ever really talking to them again. It comes in the form of trying something that you thought was a great idea and falling flat on your face and not realizing that you should probably just let it go. The ego death comes when you realize that you need to let things go. The ego death comes when you fucking grow up. Ego death is one of the most important things that you go through when you become a spiritual person. It's also one of the most important things you go through when you become an adult. The danger of a man-child never being held accountable is what we're witnessing on a grand scale. You're also seeing the bratty behaviors of congresspeople. You're seeing the idea that some people are just hell-bent on getting it wrong. And that's their lesson. Have compassion for people that are truly willing to go through it. I've watched people get beat up for no reason other than owning a mistake. But as we watch this unfold on this national and, quite frankly, world stage, what you're watching is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of this country. It is our Pluto return of the United States. We have allowed this bombastic behavior. The fact that people can be riled up and manipulated. The fact that we didn't own our mistakes or we overcompensated for them. Arguments can be made for both sides of that. And maybe we just have to learn how to own our issues, our mistakes, our progress. We're number 1. What are we, 12? Soon enough, we're going to actually become human again. And humanity is going to need leaders. They're going to need people that understand intuition, understand compassion, empathy. You want to know what you can do? Is that. Not rise up, not vote, not fight. All those things are your arbitrary belief systems. But what's not is the truism of the universe, and that is to treat each other with kindness. To see them for where they are and who they are and where they're at without judgment. Without saying, well, I'm better than this and this person's here and that person's there. We are being conditioned and we're normalizing how to scold and how to just ignore accountability. Because if you don't think that this bleeds into a classroom, you're crazy. Teachers are pulling their hair out right now because kids just shrug their shoulders and do whatever the freak they want. There's no real accountability. You get pulled over, you get a ticket, you throw it in the glove box. And it's not a forgotten thing. You're like, I didn't deserve that ticket to begin with. I think it's horseshit that you did that. But it's still the rules, it's still the law. That's a fundraiser for the community. Why should I have to pay that? Because that's the way it is. That's what's right. You want to argue it, go into the system and say, guys, can we not do this anymore? But instead, we just put in our own personal justice. But yet, when we see something on a large scale, we don't speak to it. We don't speak to the idea. Think about what's happened in the last year. We watched a well-known favorite actor go up and assault somebody only to applaud them 10 minutes later for winning a stupid fucking trophy. That Will Smith thing still rings. He was showing you something. How many times do we do that where we take it for our convenience in the moment? But we don't have the strength when it actually serves us to say, no, I can't do that. Ooh, did I just hit home? That's why Donald's order of Order 66 is so incredibly self-awareing for everybody. What's your dog whistle? What's the thing that's going to make you jump no matter? For me, you hurt a kid, I'm triggered. I'm on that. You better respect that. You better honor that you have the ability to keep and care for a kid. That's so important. Think about our relationships. We meet people on apps, and I hear it all the time in readings, and I don't judge. I really don't judge. But I think to myself, the escapisms that happen. And listen, I've looked at it too. That ego death was, you work too much. What are you running from? Time to face some things, right? It's in the chart. It's in the astrology. It's your opportunity. When I got emotional that Donald wasn't paying attention, damn it, he missed his chance. Guys, I'm going to put the link below for the Order 66 video. I went ahead and used, John Williams' soundtrack, which I'm not going to use on this one. But I really kind of hope that you guys like and subscribe, share with your friends. I'm really loving what I'm doing. I'm headed out of town for a few days. I'll be seeing the good people down in Florida. And I'm really happy with where I'm going, because I'm reconciling this stuff and I'm seeing it. I'm going to give you guys a heart tap, especially to you, to remind one another we love and care for each other, and to simply keep going. Take care.